Hello, this is a review of a movie I saw about a week ago. Not a Marvel movie for once. It has come to my attention that everything I've reviewed in the last year is like superhero or superhero adjacent. So I'm trying to see more things. I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's the A24 movie that deals with like multiverse stuff. So very fitting, given the current popularity of the multiverse concept in pop culture. This movie came out in March or April, and I didn't get around to seeing it until about a week ago. Uh, wow, what a movie! You ever watch a movie and it's just you're like, you ever experience something or like a piece of media and you're like, how did they come up, like, how did they do this? How did they like literally physically make it, but like, how did they come up with this idea? uh I love this. I love the like multiverse premise. That's really what's keeping me still interested in Marvel. Is I just like alternate universes and shit. I think that's cool. uh but this really takes the concept of a multiverse to its absolute, like, most interesting extreme. Like, the things this movie does is crazy. So it stars Michelle Yeoh. I don't, Yeoh, is that how you say it? I don't know. Yeoh. As what is her? I don't know what her character's name is. She's an Asian mom who runs a laundromat, and she's kind of down on her luck. Things aren't going so great. She's having difficulties with her husband and her daughter. You know, a very human story that grounds all of the crazy sci-fi multiverse stuff this movie gets. It keeps it from feeling like an artsy action, like just an artsy action movie, and allows you to follow it even when it gets like really, really out there with its concepts. Because this movie goes so okay. So the long title, Everything Everywhere All at Once. This isn't much of a spoiler because you'll realize it immediately. The reason the title is what it is there are three parts. There's everywhere, or everything, everywhere, all at once. And the movie like opens, or one of the, like, the second scene or the opening scene has her at her dinner table, and it's part one, everywhere, and there's this great sound cue. That was when I knew. I'm like, oh, I like when movies have parts. This is fun. Everywhere and I mean, the third part is shorter. Like the all at once is kind of more just like the conclusion, but everything and everywhere are kind of like two parts of this like movie's story. And everything is a fairly conventional, pretty grounded plot that, like, it starts out with her just dealing with her family life shit, and then essentially another universe version of her husband comes and gives her a mission, and she has to figure out what all of this even means, and that stuff. And I felt like I knew where this was going. I'm like, all right, this is already like complex enough and solid enough to be interesting. Then that part two, everywhere, shows up, and I'm not going to talk about that yet, but just know that that part is crazy. Like, oh my gosh. The bottom line, if you really have been wanting to see this, go freaking watch it. It's so emotional. Like, it's so grounded in these very real, very honest characters and very great performances. It's not focused on, like, even though it has spectacle galore, the heart of the story is not spectacle. The heart is this woman struggling to figure out, like, what she wants out of her life and how she can be happy. And then it also, the daughter becomes a major case of like how she can be happy. The husband is already happy. That's essentially his superpower, is that he is a good, kind person who, and he's played by the kid from The Goonies and Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. I don't know, whichever one has the little Asian kid. He's played by that actor who has not really been in anything since then, but he came back to acting and like got this role, and it's such a unbelievably perfect role for him, because he exudes the same friendly chipper energy that he gives off in all of those 80s movies as a child. Like, he gives it off as an adult, too. And you can just tell he's, like, the nicest, most happy guy, and he's playing this character who's supposed to be, like, the nicest, most happy guy. And it's really interesting how his perspective on things helps the main character get through the things she's going through. But emotional journey aside, and the emotional journey is amazing, it got me close to tears at points. I know this movie has made a lot of people cry. It was making some of my friends that I was with cry. A lot of it has to do with family trauma. I don't know if I have enough family trauma to cry in the movie, but there were some tearjerker moments. One of which is a very interesting scene involving rocks. That's all I'll say. For now. I'll go into spoilers in a minute, but it's also just a really fun movie. Like, the multiverse stuff is handled so interestingly, and the way they incorporate comedy into it is so fun. Basically, part of the multiverse jumping involves characters doing silly things that they never would normally do, and you things that don't make sense. And so much of the comedy comes from in these action scenes. These characters will just be doing things like random things that don't make sense, and to basically almost summon their other multiversal selves. It's explained a little better in the movie, but they also don't put too much stock into explaining it because it's an inherently silly concept, and the movie acknowledges that it's a silly idea and is just like, okay, but like multiverse, you don't know, roll with it. Like, they explain it enough that it doesn't feel cheap or like dumb. Everything in this movie is like very well, it's not, nothing is over explained, but nothing is under explained, and it's just like the emotional anchoring of the story makes it weirdly accessible. Like, this is a movie I think anyone can enjoy, even if you're not like super into these sci-fi concepts, because the movie is not inherently all that sci-fi. The world is not all that sci-fi outside of the multiverse hopping aspects. Like, it's very much our world. And I feel like for the first act, at least, you'll pretty much know what you're getting into. Like, it's not too boundary breaking. It's a little boundary breaking just by the nature of its multiverse thing, but it's not too out there. And it's just a lot of fun. Like, this movie is fun. It's emotion. It's everything. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. Like, it's not... I don't even know how to describe it. It's just such a great, amazing movie. All the hype that you might have heard about it is true. The movie has, like, some serious box office legs. Our friend group, me and my friends, tried to go twice, and both times we couldn't all four of us get seats together, which is crazy for, like, an indie movie that's been out for like months now. It's almost like reverse Marvel box office, where everybody is saying it's good, so everybody is seeing it, and you all know it's good. And if you haven't seen it, go see it, because it seriously is. If it's not nominated for the Oscars, an Oscar, that would be a mistake, because it's one of the best movies of the year. The best new movie I've seen this year. And that's just from the first act. I was like, oh, this is already like that good. And then spoilers for everything. We're gonna dive into the like meat of the plot for a little bit here. Spoilers for everything, everywhere, all at once, because we're about to get into the everywhere and the all at once. Holy crap! So this movie is already introducing. It's playing with some fun stuff. The multiverse shifting is really cool. The action is like great martial arts stuff with like zany, like everything I just talked about. And then the main character like dies, sort of. Like one of her forms gets killed. The main one that we're following gets killed. No, she doesn't get killed, but it looks like she gets killed. And then they do this, they do a credits fake out which is wild. Um, they do a credits fake out that ends up being like what another universe's version of her is watching in a movie. And from this point on, part two, Everywhere, that's why it's called Everywhere, we are no longer anchored to one universe's version of this character. She has learned how to do what the villain, which is her daughter from another universe that she pushed too far, could already do. She has learned how to jump universes to see all universes, see everywhere. And so the first act is everything. Yeah, everything's happening to her, and then more happens to her. And then the second act is everywhere. This movie breaks from focusing on one version of her, and now there's like 6 different universes. The daughter shows her like ultimate world destruction. Not even world destruction. Her daughter is essentially this major perspective of nihilism. She can see all universes, and so she feels like nothing matters anymore. Everything must go into the everything bagel, which is like a multiversal black hole. She put everything on a bagel. It's quirky. This movie's like a little silly, but also like the daughter's drama is very real because she basically just is like nihilistic about everything, and it's like, what's the point? I can see all the universes. I can see all the pain, and so then the mom adopts the same strategy to try to beat the daughter without having to kill her, to save her daughter instead of having to kill her daughter. And so now we're focusing on multiple different universes. There's one timeline that is what if she went home after the audit meeting she had at the beginning of the movie and through the party. So that one essentially continues the through line of the story that from the very beginning of the movie, which is nice because the other timelines go off the rails. There's a timeline where everybody has hot dogs, has like long, squishy hot dog fingers. There's a timeline where it's Ratatouille, but it's a raccoon on a dude's head. There's a timeline where there's the timeline we were focusing on at the beginning, which is essentially the action set piece where all the guys are set, like where they are physically fighting, but then across the multiverse, the two characters are like talking to each other and experiencing things. There's the universe where the main character is a movie star and like martial arts expert. That's the universe she summons from when she has to fight. This movie is such a like. Never have I seen the concept of anyone can do anything so fully realized as this concept of like, she could be anything in the multiverse. Anyone could pull any of their skills from any universe, and it's almost like mind-opening. There's a universe where she's a movie star, and there's a universe where she's a ninja. There's a universe where she's the scientist who opened the multiverse, and that's the one where that's the one that starts everything. We don't see that much of that universe because that one is a little more like overtly sci-fi. So we don't. Again, this movie, like, it's amazing because it's jumping between so many parallel versions of her that are experiencing the storyline at the same time, and that shouldn't work. That should be confusing as hell. But they do it so well. There's a universe where it's just her and her daughter and they're rocks, and they talk to each other with text on the screen, and it's like the most emotional parts of the movie are when they're rocks. This movie is crazy. It's like, that's what I mean when I say this is a movie I went to see and I genuinely could not believe that this concept was scripted out and filmed and put together in a way that was coherent, and more than coherent, in a way that was like fulfilled the promise and was incredible. And just like genuinely mind-blowing cinematic experience. This movie becomes genuinely mind-blowing in the second act. Or really the second and third act. Because All at Once, part 3, All at Once, is basically just an epilogue where both the mom and the daughter have like come to terms with things. And now they can see all the universes at once, but they're able to live in peace with it. A lot of this movie is action scenes and like these cool different universes, but interspersed with these really deep conversations between the dad, the mom, and the daughter about like what is like the point of living, humanity, like very, very real, very grounded conversations that keep the narrative from feeling nonsensical, that make it very, very human and not, and very, very not like Marvel movie action big climax ending. There's still everything from the first act that was great is still there, but it just like lets go of tethering itself to one universe and just allows you to see everywhere the full picture, the full scope of this like battle through the multiverse, this like verbal sparring, talking her daughter down from the ledge through the multiverse thing, and it's emotional. It's chaotic. It's messy, but in a beautiful way. It's just like amazing to see, like how all this goes down. I don't even know how to describe it. It's so the movie is so vibrant and so gorgeous and interesting and incredibly. It's just such a labor of love from everybody involved. It was so clearly so well done, and I'm so glad that it came out at a time when this multiverse concept is like if this had been the first multiverse movie out there, I feel like people wouldn't have gotten it and it wouldn't have hit. But with how popular the concept is right now, this movie is poised to become like a film, a true film classic, the kind of movie people will talk about in 20 years as one of the great movies of the 2020s. A movie that is truly like not transported, transformative of its world. Like it transports you into its world, really makes you believe in this like it takes this cosmic huge scale idea and makes it deeply relatable and human, and in a way that is both inspiring and tragic and wonderful. I go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. I'm getting emotional talking about it. Arrivederci!